I think we're going to definitely see that, especially in the two-row crossover. We think there'll be like 50 to 100 new models.
Ford CEO Jim Farley shocked the industry by bringing back the mighty 7.3-liter V8, while everyone else races toward turbo, hybrid, and electric. But what's the real story behind this beast? Is it just nostalgia? Or does it deliver jaw-dropping power, reliability, and even surprising fuel efficiency? How can a classic pushrod V8 compete with today's high-tech engines? What secrets lie behind Ford's bold move? And why is this engine sparking so much debate? When Ford first announced the 7.3-liter V8, nicknamed Godzilla, it sent shockwaves through the automotive world. In a time when nearly every manufacturer was downsizing engines, adding turbos, or transitioning fully to electric, Ford took a completely different path. Instead of joining the EV arms race, they dropped a bombshell, a massive, naturally aspirated pushrod V8. And leading this gutsy move, none other than Ford CEO Jim Farley. He wasn't just following industry trends, he was listening to the people who actually use these trucks for a living. So why revive a big block style engine when everyone else was chasing battery range and efficiency charts? The answer was surprisingly simple. Real truck buyers wanted it. Contractors, fleet managers, off-roaders, ranchers, these folks didn't care about dual motors or overcomplicated tech packages. They needed an engine that just worked, something tough, something you could fix with basic tools, something that could haul, tow, and run for hundreds of thousands of miles without needing a PhD in electronics to diagnose. Jim Farley and his team weren't trying to impress Silicon Valley. They were aiming straight at blue-collar America. The result? Ford didn't dust off an old blueprint. They built the 7.3-liter V8 from scratch. It was designed specifically to replace the aging 6.8-liter Triton V10, which had begun showing its age in Ford's Super Duty lineup. The goal was crystal clear: make an engine that delivered relentless torque, bulletproof reliability, and no-nonsense serviceability. That's why Ford went old school where it counted. They brought back a pushrod architecture, used a cast iron block for durability, and topped it with aluminum heads for performance and heat management. It wasn't about being flashy, it was about being functional. You won't find direct injection here. No twin turbos, no exotic electronics, just raw mechanical muscle, tuned for longevity and ease of maintenance. But here's the twist. Godzilla isn't some lumbering dinosaur. It's surprisingly advanced on the inside. With variable valve timing, high-quality materials, precision engineering, and a carefully tuned oiling system, it delivers 430 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque in a way that feels smooth, confident, and consistent. It's not just big for the sake of it. It's smart where it matters. That blend of brute strength and modern refinement is what makes this engine so shocking. In a market where engines have become overly complicated and harder to repair, the 7.3-liter is a breath of fresh air and a reminder that sometimes less is more. But numbers on paper only tell half the story. So what's it really like behind the wheel? What does Godzilla feel like when you put your foot down with a heavy trailer hitched up? Stick around, because next we're diving into the real-world performance of Ford's boldest engine in decades. And trust us, it's not what you're expecting. So what exactly makes the Ford 7.3-liter V8 such a shock to the system? Let's pop the hood and take a closer look. Because what's hidden beneath that blocky exterior is not just brute force. It's precision engineering with one purpose: get the job done, no matter what. Ford CEO Jim Farley made it clear when this engine was greenlit. It had to be powerful, yes, but also bulletproof. It needed to serve the hardworking folks pulling 30,000-pound trailers, not just show up in a spec sheet. That's where the real truth lies. The 7.3-liter wasn't designed to chase headlines. It was built for results. Let's talk about design. This engine is a 445 cubic inch, naturally aspirated V8. That means no turbo, no supercharger, just pure displacement. And that decision, intentional. Fewer parts, fewer points of failure, and instant responsive power. You step on the gas, and it delivers. No lag, no waiting. The block is cast iron, heavy, yes, but incredibly strong. It's paired with aluminum heads and a simple overhead valve, OHV, setup. Just 2 valves per cylinder. And here's where it gets interesting. Ford chose this old-school architecture because it keeps things compact, reliable, and surprisingly efficient. This is not about chasing trends. It's about real-world function. Inside, you've got a forged steel crankshaft, hyper-eutectic pistons, and powdered metal connecting rods, heavy-duty components made to last. There's also a variable displacement oil pump to adjust pressure based on demand, reducing stress when you're cruising and ramping up when you need it. Even the valve train is smarter than it looks, with hydraulic roller lifters and variable valve timing for better breathing and smoother operation across the rev range. One surprising twist: despite its size, the 7.3-liter is actually quite compact. It's narrower than a typical DOHC V8, making it easier to service and ideal for tight engine bays. Whether you're swapping it into an old Mustang or building a heavy-duty workhorse, it just fits, physically and practically. And here's the real kicker. This engine is rated at 430 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque on regular petrol. No premium fuel, no expensive diesel systems, just straight-up power on pump gas. That's part of the shocking truth. It's not trying to be fancy. It's just good, honest engineering that works harder than it talks. But how does all that tech actually feel once the wheels are turning? Coming up next, we take the 7.3-liter to the streets and the job site to see how it performs when things get real. So here's the big question. Does the Ford 7.3-liter V8 actually live up to the hype? Well, prepare to be shocked, because while this engine doesn't come with the bells and whistles of turbochargers or electric assist, what it does deliver is the kind of raw, no-nonsense performance that most modern engines can only dream about. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, wasn't interested in flashy marketing when he pushed the Godzilla V8 into production. His aim was simple: give real drivers real power where it counts. And that's exactly what the 7.3-liter delivers, both on paper and in the wild. Let's talk numbers first. This beast punches out 430 horsepower and a massive 475 pound-feet of torque, without a turbo, without premium fuel, and without needing complex electronics to hold it all together. But those numbers only tell half the story. It's how that power shows up that really turns heads. From the moment you hit the throttle, the torque is there, immediate, smooth, relentless. Whether you're launching onto a highway or crawling up a muddy work site with a fully loaded trailer, the power feels bottomless. There's no lag, no hesitation, just that old school V8 grunt doing exactly what you ask it to do, and towing. This is where things get wild. When properly equipped, the 7.3-liter V8 can tow up to 21,000 pounds in certain F-Series configurations. That's right, 21,000. No diesel, no hybrid gimmicks, just pure gas-powered muscle. In fact, this gas engine is closing the gap on diesels in a way no one really expected. It's a big reason fleet operators and contractors are switching over. It's cheaper to run, easier to maintain, and it still hauls like a freight train. Even better, the engine pairs perfectly with Ford's 10-speed automatic transmission, keeping you in the sweet spot of power whether you're cruising empty or dragging a full-size excavator. The shifts are quick, confident, and perfectly timed to keep the torque flowing. And here's the part nobody saw coming. The 7.3-liter doesn't just excel at heavy-duty work. It feels alive on the road. You can daily drive this thing. It pulls hard, sounds great, and handles the kind of abuse that would send smaller engines to the scrapyard. So yeah, the truth is shocking, but in the best way. This engine doesn't just perform, it dominates. And next, we'll explore something just as important: how the 7.3-liter manages to stay reliable, even while delivering this level of power every single day. Now let's talk about the part nobody likes to hear, but absolutely needs to: fuel economy. Because let's face it, when you're dealing with a 7.3-liter V8 named Godzilla, you're not exactly expecting hybrid-like mileage, right? But here's the twist. This beast might not be the gas guzzler everyone assumes it is. Ford CEO Jim Farley made it clear from the start. This engine wasn't built to sip fuel. It was built to work. And yet, despite its massive displacement and old-school pushrod design, the 7.3-liter V8 doesn't drink fuel like it's going out of style. In fact, it's more efficient than many people expected. Real-world numbers. Owners are reporting averages anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per gallon, depending on load, terrain, and driving style. For a naturally aspirated big block engine pushing over 430 horsepower, that's honestly impressive, especially when you factor in that it runs on regular unleaded fuel. No pricey premium required, and no diesel costs or DEF fluid headaches to worry about. The fuel economy gains come down to some clever engineering. Ford gave the Godzilla engine variable valve timing, a modern 10-speed automatic, and a focus on low RPM torque, so it doesn't have to scream to move heavy loads. That means better efficiency in real-world driving, particularly on highways or during moderate hauling. And here's where it gets more interesting. If you're comparing this to diesel options, the Godzilla engine starts to look even better. Sure, a diesel might save you a few mpg, but it'll cost more to buy, more to maintain, and more when things go wrong. Meanwhile, the 7.3-liter V8 just keeps things simple. No turbos, no intercoolers, no sensors waiting to fail. Now, let's be honest. If you're expecting eco-car levels of fuel savings, this isn't your engine. But if you want honest performance with less complexity and a price that won't wreck your fuel budget, then the trade-off might actually surprise you in a good way. And speaking of surprises, wait until you hear how this engine manages to stay ultra-reliable despite its size, power, and workload. That's where we're headed next. Now here's where things really start to flip the script, because while most modern engines are packed with sensors, turbos, and fragile tech, Ford's 7.3-liter V8 does the complete opposite. And that's exactly why mechanics, fleet managers, and hardworking drivers absolutely love it. When Jim Farley approved this engine for production, he wasn't thinking about flashy gimmicks or pointless features. He was thinking about real-world durability. And this engine delivers that in spades. Let's break it down. The 7.3-liter V8 is what you'd call refreshingly simple. It uses a classic pushrod design. No overhead cams, no turbochargers, no direct injection. That means fewer parts to break, easier maintenance, and lower repair bills. For people running landscaping fleets, towing businesses, or commercial delivery trucks, that's a game changer. But don't confuse simple with outdated. The Godzilla engine still benefits from modern build quality, electronic controls, and bulletproof internals. We're talking a cast iron block, aluminum heads, forged crank, and heavy-duty components that are built to survive hundreds of thousands of miles. Some owners are already reporting over 300,000 miles, and the engines are still running like new. And here's the shocking bit. Mechanics actually prefer working on it. It's easy to access, it's straightforward to diagnose, and it doesn't require a spaceship-level scanner just to clear a code. That kind of serviceability is rare these days, and it's exactly why the 7.3-liter is becoming a fleet favorite across the country. From a business standpoint, it also just makes sense. You save on downtime, save on parts, and you don't need a team of engineers just to keep the trucks on the road. That's why companies are switching away from diesels and complicated turbo setups, and going all in on this big, bold gas V8. And it's not just about reliability, because up next, we're diving into how this engine stacks up against its biggest rivals. And let's just say, the results might shock you. Now, before we put the 7.3-liter V8 on a pedestal, let's get real for a moment. Because while this engine has a lot going for it, it's not perfect. And Jim Farley, Ford's CEO, knows that better than anyone. Even with all the praise it's received, there are still a few things that might catch owners off guard. And that's where the shocking truth starts to surface. Let's start with one of the most commonly reported issues: oil leaks. Nothing catastrophic, but annoying nonetheless. Some drivers have noticed leaks coming from the valve cover gaskets or oil pan seals, especially after heavy use or high mileage. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something you'll want to keep an eye on if you're running this engine hard. Then there's the occasional case of rough idling. In a few early models, drivers reported the engine stumbling at low RPMs or stalling when coming to a stop. Most of the time, it's a dirty throttle body, or a finicky idle air control valve. Simple fixes, but still frustrating when you're expecting bulletproof reliability. Another challenge? Heat. The 7.3-liter is a big iron block engine, and in really hot climates or under constant heavy towing, it can run a bit warm. It's built to take the heat, but in some setups, especially in older vans or enclosed engine bays, it might benefit from extra cooling support or an upgraded radiator. Now, here's what might really surprise you. It's not the best engine for everyone. If you're using your truck mainly for city commutes, light errands, or just don't need that kind of brute strength, the 7.3-liter can actually feel like overkill. It's loud, it's heavy, and yes, fuel economy still takes a hit in stop and go traffic. But here's the thing, none of these are major design flaws. Most issues are easy to fix, especially if you stay on top of regular maintenance. And honestly, when you compare these minor quirks to the nightmare repair bills that come with some modern turbocharged engines, the 7.3-liter still comes out way ahead. So yes, the engine has its weak spots, but they're nothing that a good mechanic or a savvy owner can't handle. And in the next chapter, we're stacking this beast up against its biggest rivals. So get ready, because the results might just change how you look at this so-called old-school V8 forever. Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about specs or torque curves. It's about legacy. When Jim Farley and the Ford team greenlit the 7.3-liter V8, nicknamed Godzilla, they weren't just building another engine. They were making a statement. One that said, we're not done with big, reliable, naturally aspirated power just yet. In an era where everything seems to be going smaller, turbocharged, or fully electric, the Godzilla engine roared onto the scene as a total curveball. No hybrid tricks, no twin turbos, just old school displacement, modern engineering, and a ridiculous amount of torque packed into a bulletproof design. That's the shocking truth. Ford didn't follow the trend. They challenged it, and buyers noticed. For fleet managers, off-road enthusiasts, and anyone who tows big loads for a living, the 7.3-liter became an instant hit. Why? Because it's not just powerful, it's predictable. No complicated turbo systems, no finicky electronics, and no guessing games. Just raw muscle you can count on for hundreds of thousands of miles. And beyond the trucks it's built for, this engine is becoming a legend in its own right. Swappers and hot rodders are stuffing Godzillas into Mustangs, Crown Vics, classic Broncos, even Chevys. Ford selling it as a crate engine was a game changer, and the aftermarket is already buzzing with upgrades. In just a few years, Godzilla has earned a seat at the table with names like LS and Hemi. That's no small feat. For Ford, it's a reminder of their roots. It's muscle, grit, and a nod to the days when a V8 meant something. But it's also a glimpse into the future, where not everything has to be high-tech to be high performance. And for Jim Farley, it's proof that sometimes betting big on simplicity pays off. Now that we've seen how Godzilla's shaking up the truck world, it's time to answer the final, and maybe the most important question. Is this the last great V8, or just the beginning of a new era? Let's wrap this up. All right, here's the big question we've all been leading up to. Should you actually buy a truck with Ford's 7.3-liter V8 Godzilla engine? The answer might just surprise you. Let's get straight to it. Jim Farley and his team didn't build this engine to win drag races or boost EV credits. They built it for real-world truck owners, for people who need a workhorse, not a science project. And in that role, the 7.3-liter delivers in spades. If you want simple, reliable power without the headaches of turbochargers, battery packs, or endless sensors, this engine is hard to beat. Whether you're towing heavy equipment across the country, hauling gear up steep grades, or just want that classic V8 growl under the hood, you're going to get what you paid for and then some. But here's the shocking truth. This engine isn't for everyone. If fuel economy is your top priority, or you only need a truck for light-duty errands, this might not be the smartest choice. It's a thirsty beast, especially under load, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. but for those who need performance they can trust without constantly visiting the shop or the dealership for complex repairs. The 7.3-liter is a breath of fresh, old-school air. And let's not forget the aftermarket world. This engine is already being embraced by builders, swappers, and hot rodders across the country. That alone says something about its long-term value, not just as a power plant, but as a platform. So here's the final word. If you're someone who values strength, durability, and simplicity over gimmicks and gadgets, buying a truck with the 7.3-liter Godzilla might be one of the smartest decisions you'll ever make. It's not just another engine, it's a statement, a reminder that good engineering still matters. And Ford, under Jim Farley's leadership, isn't afraid to prove it. Now that we've peeled back the layers, it's your turn. Is the 7.3-liter the last great gas, a V8, or just the start of something even bigger? So there you have it, the shocking truth behind Ford's 7.3-liter V8 Godzilla engine. From its old-school pushrod design to its beastly towing power and surprising reliability, this engine is rewriting the rules. And with CEO Jim Farley at the wheel, Ford's not just chasing trends, they're setting new standards. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Is the 7.3-liter V8 a bold return to basics, or just a temporary throwback in a world racing toward electric everything? Would you put one under your hood?